The arena roared with alien voices, shrill, guttural, and everything in between. Across the galaxy, beings from countless systems had gathered to witness the spectacle. It wasn't just a fight, it was a statement. The arena, known as the Cage of Titans, was where disputes between species were settled, where physical dominance was proven, and where the galaxy's most fearsome warriors carved their legacies. The cage itself was a brutal stage, a circular pit surrounded by glowing force fields that shimmered ominously, ready to fry anyone who dared step too close. The ground was a mix of cracked stone and embedded alien bones, remnants of past fighters who hadn't been fortunate enough to walk away. Ladies and sentients of all species, a booming voice announced, echoing across the arena. The speaker was a six-armed alien, its gelatinous body rippling with excitement as it floated above the crowd. Today we witnessed the trial of the humans. Will their primitive training stand against the might of the Draxxir champion? A collective cheer erupted, shaking the arena. The Draxxir were among the most feared species in the galaxy, a hulking reptilian race standing over 9 feet tall, their scales harder than most metals, their claws capable of rending steel. The Draxxir champion, Korvalth, was undefeated, a towering figure who had turned countless challengers into lifeless heaps. But today's fight wasn't just about glory. The humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, a species that had emerged from their backwater planet only a few decades ago. They were smaller, weaker, and considered inferior by nearly every other species. Yet they had earned the ire of the Draxxir Empire by refusing to bow to their demands for tribute. The stakes were simple: humanity's sovereignty versus complete subjugation. Standing in the human corner of the pit was Lieutenant Alex Carter. He was no giant, standing just shy of 6 feet, his frame lean but athletic. His uniform had been stripped away, leaving him barefoot and clad in simple combat shorts. The crowd laughed and jeered at the sight of him, a lone human, weaponless, facing an opponent nearly twice his size. Korvalth stepped into the cage with a thunderous roar, his tail slamming against the ground with enough force to crack the stone. His claws glinted under the arena lights, and his jagged teeth formed a sinister grin. "Is this the best your species could offer?" Korvalth sneered, his voice like grinding rocks. "I'll make this quick." Alex ignored the taunt, his expression calm. He glanced briefly at his hands, flexing his fingers. They were ordinary hands, nothing special. But what they represented was something no Draxxir could ever understand. The announcer's voice echoed again. "Begin?" Korvalth didn't wait. With a guttural roar, he charged, his claws slicing through the air. The crowd gasped as Alex sidestepped the attack with a fluid grace, his movements almost lazy. Korvalth's claws struck the ground, sending shards of stone flying. Alex took a few steps back, his posture relaxed. He raised his hands, adopting a stance that seemed unimpressive to the untrained eye. But for those who knew, it was the hallmark of discipline, precision, and centuries of human ingenuity in combat. Korvalth snarled, his pride stung. "You think you can dance your way out of this, human?" The Draxxir lunged again, this time with more speed and ferocity. But Alex moved like water, weaving and dodging with a grace that seemed almost unnatural. Each time Korvalth swung his claws, Alex was already gone, a blur of motion that left the crowd murmuring in confusion. "What is he doing?" one alien spectator hissed to another. "Why isn't he attacking?" "Typical human cowardice," another sneered. "He's just prolonging the inevitable." But Alex wasn't running. He was studying. Each movement, each attack from Korvalth revealed something. The Draxxir's rhythm, his over-reliance on brute force, the way his tail shifted for balance. It was like watching a predator in the wild, its weaknesses laid bare to a trained eye. Korvalth's frustration boiled over. With a deafening roar, he swung both arms in a wide arc, a move meant to corner Alex. But the human ducked under the attack, his body moving with uncanny precision. In a split second, Alex closed the distance, delivering a sharp elbow strike to Korvalth's ribcage. The Draxxir staggered back, his eyes wide with shock. The crowd fell silent. "That hurt?" Korvalth growled, more surprised than angry. Alex didn't respond. He simply adjusted his stance, his movements deliberate and measured. To him this wasn't just a fight, it was a chess match, and he was already 3 moves ahead. The fight dragged on, but the dynamics had shifted. Korvalth's confidence began to waver as he realized he couldn't land a single blow. His attacks were wild and unfocused, while Alex remained calm, his movements economical. When the human struck, it was with surgical precision, a kick to the knee joint, a palm strike to the throat, a sweep that sent the Draxxir crashing to the ground. "He's toying with him," An alien in the crowd murmured, disbelief evident in their voice. No, another corrected. He's dismantling him. For the first time, Korvalth felt something he hadn't experienced in years: fear. This human, so small and seemingly insignificant, was breaking him down piece by piece. His strength, his size, none of it mattered. The human wasn't fighting with brute force. He was fighting with something far more dangerous: training. Enough. Korvalth roared, his desperation evident. He unleashed a feral charge, throwing his full weight into the attack. But Alex sidestepped at the last moment, using the Draxur's momentum against him. With a well-placed strike to the back of Korvalth's knee, Alex brought the towering alien crashing down. Before Korvalth could recover, Alex was on him, locking his arm around the Draxur's neck in a chokehold. The crowd erupted into chaos, half screaming in disbelief, the other half cheering. Korvalth thrashed wildly, but Alex held firm, his grip like iron. Yield, Alex said, his voice calm but commanding. Korvalth struggled, his vision dimming as the choke tightened. His pride screamed at him to fight, but his body was failing. Finally, with a guttural growl, he slammed his claw against the ground, a universal signal of surrender. The arena fell silent. The announcer floated forward, his gelatinous form quivering with excitement. The winner is the human. The crowd erupted, their jeers and laughter replaced with stunned applause. Alex released Korvalth and stepped back, his breathing steady. He glanced up at the spectators, his face unreadable. Back in the human quarters, Alex sat on a bench, wiping the sweat from his face. His commanding officer, Colonel Hayes, entered the room, a proud smile on his face. "Well done, Lieutenant," Hayes said. "The Draxur won't be underestimating us again." Alex nodded, his expression thoughtful. "They'll never understand, will they? What training really means to us?" Hayes chuckled. "They see strength as raw power, nothing more. They don't understand that training is what turns potential into reality. It's discipline, patience, and adaptability. It's what makes us dangerous." Alex leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Do you think they'll ever truly respect us?" "They will," Hayes said firmly. "After today, the galaxy knows one thing for sure: humanity doesn't just survive. We thrive." Outside, the roar of the crowd continued, but Alex didn't need their approval. The message had been sent, loud and clear. Humanity might be small, but they were far from weak. And anyone who dared to underestimate them would soon learn the cost. Korvalth paced the Draxur chambers, his every step cracking the stone floor beneath his massive feet. His defeat replayed in his mind, each moment a bitter reminder of how a smaller, weaker opponent had humiliated him in front of the galaxy. His tail lashed violently, striking a nearby wall and leaving deep gouges in the metal. "This is an outrage," Korvalth roared, his voice reverberating through the chamber. "That human cheated. There's no way a creature of such size could overpower me." Across the room, Zarlis, the Draxur combat strategist, observed him with a calm, reptilian gaze. Unlike Korvalth, Zarlis was wiry and composed, his mind as sharp as his claws. He leaned against a table covered in holographic projections of the fight, replaying the footage for the 100th time. "He didn't cheat," Zarlis said, his voice measured. "You lost because you underestimated him." Korvalth spun to face Zarlis, his scales bristling. "Underestimated? Look at him. He's barely more than a whelp. No claws, no natural armor, no strength." Zarlis let out a low hiss of amusement. "And yet he dismantled you. Shall I tell you why?" Korvalth's nostrils flared, but he didn't interrupt. "The humans are a peculiar species," Zarlis began, gesturing to the holographic display. "They're physically unimpressive compared to most galactic races. By all logic, they should have been extinct long before they reached the stars. And yet they survived. Thrived even. Do you know why?" Korvalth growled. "Enlighten me." "Adaptability," Zarlis said, his eyes narrowing. "They don't rely on innate strength or natural weapons. They build, they learn, and most importantly, they train. What you faced in that arena wasn't just a man. It was the result of centuries of perfected combat techniques, drilled into every fiber of his being." Korvalth's claws clenched. "Techniques? What are techniques compared to raw power?" Zarlis tapped the holographic projection, zooming in on Alex's movements. "Techniques are everything. Look here, when you swung at him he didn't block. He redirected. When you charged he didn't meet you head-on. He used your momentum against you. Every strike he made was calculated, targeting your joints, your balance, your weak points." "I have no weak points," Korvalth snapped. "Every living creature has weak points," Zarlis countered. The humans have simply mastered the art of exploiting them. Korvalth fell silent, his mind churning. He didn't want to admit it, but Zarlis was right. Every move Alex had made in the arena had been deliberate, efficient, and devastatingly effective. Zarlis turned off the holographic display and stepped closer. If we are to maintain our dominance in this galaxy, we must adapt as the humans have. Brute strength is no longer enough. You've learned that the hard way. The strategist's words stung, but they also sparked something in Korvalth. A fire. A determination to reclaim his honor, not with blind rage but with strategy and preparation. Meanwhile, back on the human ship Resolute Horizon, the aftermath of Alex Carter's victory was anything but celebratory. The crew was abuzz with chatter, but the mood was tense. Colonel Hayes sat in the strategy room with Alex and a small group of senior officers. A holographic projection of the galaxy spun slowly before them, highlighting the sectors controlled by the Draxar Empire. "Congratulations on your win, Lieutenant," Hayes began, his tone brisk. "But this fight was only the beginning. The Draxar won't take this lying down." Alex nodded. "They're prideful. Korvalth's defeat will sting, but it'll also make them more dangerous. They'll want revenge." "That's putting it lightly," Commander Lee interjected. "We've already intercepted transmissions. The Draxar are calling for a rematch, on their terms. They're planning to escalate this into a full-blown conflict." Hayes leaned forward, his expression grave. "And we can't let that happen. Humanity is still finding its footing on the galactic stage. A war with the Draxar could cripple us before we even get started." Alex frowned. "So what's the plan?" Hayes activated the holographic display, showing a detailed map of a Draxar training facility. "We've identified a key Draxar combat academy on the planet Skarath 4. It's where they train their champions. If we can infiltrate it, gather intel on their techniques and strategies, we might gain the upper hand." "Infiltrate a Draxar academy?" Alex said, raising an eyebrow. "That's a suicide mission." "Not for someone with your skills," Hayes replied. "You've proven that their size and strength can be overcome. If anyone can do this, it's you." Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Let me guess, I'll be going in alone?" "Not entirely," Hayes said, a faint smile playing on his lips. "We've got some allies who owe us a favor. The Karathai are willing to help." The mention of the Karathai, an insectoid race known for their stealth and resourcefulness, gave Alex some measure of comfort. Still, the thought of infiltrating a Draxar stronghold made his stomach churn. 2 weeks later, Alex found himself crouched in the shadows of Skarath IV's dense jungles, the towering spires of the Draxar Academy visible in the distance. Beside him, a Karathai operative named Skora clicked her mandibles in anticipation. "The Draxar think themselves invincible," Skora said in a whisper, her voice a strange mix of clicks and tones. "They will not expect us to walk among them." Alex adjusted his gear, his nerves steady. "Let's hope you're right." The plan was simple. Infiltrate the academy disguised as recruits, gather intel on their training methods, and sabotage their operations if possible. But as Alex approached the academy gates, flanked by Skora and a small team of Karathai, he couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would be anything but simple. Inside, the academy was a fortress of discipline and brutality. Draxar instructors barked orders as recruits sparred in the training pits, their clashes echoing through the massive halls. The recruits were fearsome, hulking, armored, and relentless. But as Alex observed them, he noticed something. Their movements were powerful but predictable. Their techniques relied on overwhelming force with little room for adaptability. It was a stark contrast to the fluid, calculated style of human combat. "See that?" Alex murmured to Skora as they watched a sparring match. "They're strong but they fight like machines. No improvisation, no creativity." Skora nodded, her antennae twitching. "If we exploit this, we can turn their strength against them." For the next few days, Alex and the Karathai team immersed themselves in the academy, observing and learning. Alex took every opportunity to spar with the recruits, testing their skills and planting seeds of doubt in their minds. "You're leaving yourself open," he said to one Draxar recruit after dodging a wild swing. "You rely too much on your size. What happens when someone faster gets the upper hand?" The recruit growled, frustrated, but Alex's words struck a chord. Slowly but surely, he began to sow the idea that strength alone wasn't enough. But Alex knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. The Draxar were prideful, but they weren't fools. Sooner or later, someone would notice the cracks in their facade. And when that happened, Alex would be ready. Because humanity wasn't just here to survive, they were here to prove that the smallest spark could ignite the biggest fire. Alex Carter moved like a shadow through the Draxer Academy, his every step calculated. The days spent undercover had taught him much. The Draxer's size and strength dominated every aspect of their combat philosophy, but their confidence in those traits bordered on arrogance. It was a vulnerability Alex couldn't afford to ignore. The HFY, with their natural stealth and sharp instincts, had proved invaluable. Skora, Alex's insectoid companion, scuttled beside him as they crept into the heart of the academy, the central training command. The glowing structure loomed ahead, pulsating with alien energy. It was here that the Draxer trained their champions, a place both revered and guarded. "Security is light tonight," Skora clicked, her voice low. "Too light. They think no one would dare infiltrate their sacred halls," Alex replied, his voice equally soft. "Let's not disappoint them." The plan was risky: sabotage the Academy's central training protocols, retrieve critical data on their combat techniques, and escape before the Draxer realized they had been breached. The mission was as much psychological warfare as it was tactical. Alex intended to undermine their confidence at its core. They reached the main door, a towering slab of reinforced metal inscribed with glowing alien runes. Skora crouched, her slender claws moving with delicate precision over the control panel. Her mandibles clicked rhythmically as she worked, bypassing the locks with practiced ease. "3. There," Skora announced as the door slid open with a low hiss. Inside, the command center was a sprawling chamber of alien technology. Rows of holographic displays projected intricate combat data, while massive pillars pulsed with energy. The room was eerily silent, the hum of machinery the only sound. Alex couldn't help but marvel at the Draxer's engineering prowess, but he quickly shook off the thought. Admiration wasn't on the agenda tonight. "Let's move," Alex said, stepping inside. Skora scuttled to one of the consoles, her antennae twitching as she interfaced with the system. Alex stood guard, his sharp eyes scanning the room for any signs of movement. His instincts told him they were on borrowed time. "This data is fascinating," Skora murmured, her mandibles clicking in thought. "Their combat algorithms are highly advanced but rigid. They've codified every move into predictable patterns." "Exactly what I've been saying," Alex replied. "They're powerful but they fight like machines. No creativity, no adaptability." Skora's claws tapped rapidly on the console. "I'm extracting their training protocols now. This will give your people a significant advantage in countering them." "Good. How long?" Alex asked. 5 minutes, Skora replied. "Make it 3, Alex said, his voice tense. "We're running out of luck." As if on cue, the room's lights dimmed and a deep, resonant hum filled the air. Alex's heart sank. The Draxer had discovered them. Korvalth had been restless ever since the humans arrived at the Academy. Something about their presence unsettled him. They were too quiet, too observant. He had tried to dismiss it as paranoia, but now, as alarms blared across the facility, he knew his instincts had been right. "They dare defile our sacred grounds?" Korvalth roared, rallying a squad of Draxer guards. "Find them. Crush them." The guards, towering and heavily armored, roared their approval, their claws scraping against the stone as they charged toward the command center. Korvalth led the charge, his mind ablaze with rage. He would not allow humanity to tarnish the honor of his people again. Back in the command center, Skora worked frantically, her claws a blur as she completed the data extraction. "Almost done," she clicked. "Good," Alex said, his eyes locked on the entrance. He could hear the heavy footsteps of approaching guards, the sound growing louder by the second. He tightened his fists, mentally preparing himself. When the door burst open, it wasn't a squad of Draxer guards that Alex saw, it was Korvalth himself, flanked by his warriors. The massive reptilian alien stepped into the room, his scales glinting under the harsh lights. His eyes locked onto Alex, burning with fury. "You," Korvalth growled, his voice low and menacing. "You dare to sully this place with your pathetic presence?" Alex stepped forward, his posture calm but ready. "Miss me, big guy?" Korvalth snarled, his claws flexing. "This time there will be no games, no tricks. I will break you." Alex smirked. "You can try." The Draxer warriors moved to flank Alex, but he didn't wait for them to strike. He darted forward, his movements a blur. His first target was the closest guard, a hulking figure armed with a massive energy baton. Alex sidestepped the guard's swing and delivered a precise strike to the alien's elbow joint. The guard roared in pain as the baton clattered to the ground. Before the others could react, Alex was already on the move. He used the dropped baton to sweep the legs of another guard, sending the towering alien crashing to the floor. His movements were fluid, efficient, a testament to years of relentless training. Korvalth roared, charging at Alex with terrifying speed. The force of his charge shook the room, but Alex was ready. He pivoted at the last moment, delivering a sharp strike to the back of Korvalth's knee. The Draxer stumbled but didn't fall, his rage fueling him. "You won't escape this time?" Korvalth bellowed, swinging his massive tail at Alex. The tail struck with the force of a battering ram, grazing Alex's shoulder and sending him sprawling. Pain shot through his body, but he pushed himself to his feet, refusing to stay down. He couldn't afford to. Skora's voice crackled in his earpiece. "Extraction complete. We need to leave, now." "Working on it," Alex called back, dodging another swipe from Korvalth. He needed an opening, a way to end this fight quickly. Korvalth lunged again, his claws aimed for Alex's throat. But this time Alex didn't dodge. He stepped into the attack, using the Draxer's momentum against him. With a well-timed maneuver, Alex twisted Korvalth's arm and slammed him into the ground. The impact shook the room. Korvalth groaned, momentarily stunned. Alex didn't wait for him to recover. He grabbed the energy baton from the fallen guard and activated it, its blade crackling with energy. "You talk too much," Alex said, his voice cold. He turned to Skora, who had already secured the data drive. "Let's go." The two bolted for the exit, dodging incoming guards as alarms blared throughout the facility. Behind them, Korvalth roared in frustration, his voice echoing through the halls. The escape wasn't easy. Draxer guards pursued them relentlessly, their roars and heavy footsteps never far behind. But Alex and Skora moved with purpose, their training and instincts guiding them through the labyrinthine halls of the academy. When they finally reached the extraction point, a hidden HFY ship cloaked in the jungle, Alex felt a wave of relief. They boarded the ship, and as it ascended into the sky, he looked back at the Draxer Academy. The spires of the fortress grew smaller, but the significance of what they had achieved loomed large. "You've lit a fire in them," Skora said, her tone a mix of amusement and respect. "They will come for you." "Let them," Alex replied, a determined glint in his eye. "We've got what we need. Now it's our turn to rewrite the rules of this game." As the ship entered orbit and disappeared into the void, Alex knew the fight was far from over. But for the first time humanity had the upper hand. And they weren't about to let it slip away. The HFY ship glided silently through the void, its cloaking systems rendering it invisible to Draxer pursuit. Inside the cramped cabin, Alex Carter sat against a bulkhead, catching his breath. His shoulder throbbed from where Korvalth's tail had clipped him, but he didn't have time to dwell on the pain. They had done the impossible, breached the heart of the Draxer war machine and walked away alive. Skora perched nearby, the alien data drive secured in her spindly claws. Her antennae twitched as she studied Alex, her mandibles clicking softly. "You are hurt." "Just a scratch," Alex replied, wincing as he adjusted his position. "You got the data?" Skora held the drive aloft. "Every combat protocol, every training algorithm. More than we expected." She tilted her head, her compound eyes reflecting the dim light of the cabin. "But I wonder, will it be enough?" Alex looked at her, his expression unreadable. "It'll have to be." The ship's pilot, another HFY operative, chirped a notification. "Approaching the resolute horizon. Humans are ready to receive us." Alex stood, rolling his stiff shoulder. "Let's hope they're ready for what comes next." Back aboard the resolute horizon, the debriefing room buzzed with activity. Holographic displays projected the contents of the stolen Draxer data, and a team of human strategists and HFY analysts worked tirelessly to decipher it. Colonel Hayes presided over the room, his stern gaze flicking between the screens and his officers. Alex and Skora entered, drawing the attention of the room. Hayes stepped forward, his voice commanding. "Lieutenant Carter." "Skora." "Outstanding work." Alex gave a tired salute. "Glad to be back in one piece, sir." Hayes gestured to the data displays. "You've given us a treasure trove. We're already identifying weaknesses in the Draxer combat philosophy, patterns we can exploit. This could change everything." Skora clicked thoughtfully. "Their strength is their rigidity. But it is also their downfall. They rely on predictable strategies, unable to adapt to chaotic variables." Hayes nodded. "Exactly. And that's where we come in. Humanity thrives on chaos." Alex couldn't help but smirk. "We've had plenty of practice." The room chuckled lightly, but the mood remained serious. The Draxer weren't just going to sit back and let their secrets be used against them. Humanity had bought itself a chance, but it was a narrow one. "Sir," Alex said, stepping closer to Hayes. "This isn't over. Korvalth won't forget this. He's too proud. He'll come for us." Hayes nodded grimly. "You're right. Which is why we need to act quickly. We can't let them dictate the terms of the next fight." The colonel turned to the room, addressing the assembled officers. "The Draxar believe themselves unbeatable because they've never faced a true equal. They've relied on fear, brute force, and reputation. But now they know what we're capable of. And we're going to show them the one thing they've never encountered, a species that fights smarter, not harder." The next few weeks aboard the Resolute Horizon were a blur of preparation. Using the stolen data, humanity began to rewrite its combat protocols. Teams of soldiers drilled tirelessly, incorporating Draxar techniques while adapting them with human ingenuity. Every weakness the Draxar had was exploited, every pattern dismantled. Alex spent long hours in the training rooms, sparring with fellow soldiers and sharing insights from his experiences at the Draxar Academy. Word of his victory over Korvalth had spread, and he was quickly becoming a legend among the crew. But Alex didn't let it go to his head. He knew the stakes were too high for ego. One night, as Alex stood alone in the observation deck, staring out at the endless stars, Skora approached. The Karathai's movements were silent, her presence almost undetectable. "You seem troubled," she observed, her voice soft. Alex glanced at her. "Just thinking." "About what?" He hesitated. "About what happens next. We've got their data, we've got the training, but the Draxar aren't going to roll over. They'll adapt too. They'll hit back harder than ever." Skora tilted her head, her antennae twitching. "Is that fear I hear in your voice?" Alex shook his head. "Not fear. Just perspective. I've seen what they're capable of. And I've seen what we're capable of. It's not going to be an easy fight." Skora clicked her mandibles in thought. "No fight worth winning ever is." Alex chuckled, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "You sound like one of us." "Perhaps I am learning," Skora replied. "Humans are intriguing. Fragile yet resilient. Weak yet strong. You are a species of contradictions." "We're survivors," Alex said simply. Skora nodded. "And that may be your greatest weapon." The battle came sooner than expected. Draxar warships descended upon the human fleet, their intent clear: revenge. The Resolute Horizon and its allies braced for the onslaught, humanity's forces smaller but determined. As the two fleets clashed, Alex found himself once again face to face with Korvalth, this time on the surface of a barren moon where the Draxar had forced a ground engagement. The towering alien warrior stood before him, his armor gleaming, his claws flexing. "You stole from us," Korvalth growled. "You humiliated us. And now I will end you." Alex stood his ground, unarmed but unafraid. "You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about strength. It's about strategy. And we've got plenty of that." Korvalth roared, charging at Alex with all the force of a wrecking ball. But Alex was ready. This time he wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy. The battle that followed was a testament to everything humanity had learned. Alex moved with precision, dodging Korvalth's powerful strikes and exploiting every opening. Around them, human soldiers fought alongside their Karathai allies, their combined tactics overwhelming the Draxar's brute force. In the end, it wasn't Alex's strength that defeated Korvalth, it was his mind. With a final, calculated move, Alex used the environment to his advantage, collapsing a section of the rocky terrain and trapping the Draxar warrior beneath it. As Korvalth roared in frustration, Alex stood over him, breathing heavily. "This isn't just about us," he said. "It's about showing the galaxy that there's another way to fight. A better way." The Draxar forces retreated that day, their confidence shaken. Humanity and its allies had proven that strength alone wasn't enough to win. Adaptability, ingenuity, and determination had carried the day. Back aboard the Resolute Horizon, Alex watched as the Draxar fleet disappeared into the void. He knew the fight wasn't over. But for the first time he felt hopeful. Because humanity wasn't just surviving, they were thriving. And the galaxy was finally starting to notice.